Hello my spooky book friends, welcome back to my channel. If you are new and have never been here before, my name's Kendall and today I'm going to be going over all of my witchy book recommendations for this fall and the ones that are currently on my TBR and wanting to be read this fall as well. Obviously I have a lot. I really love books with witches in them because it's very much magical systems and fantasy basically, and I absolutely love that in my books. And you add the spooky vibes of fall and Halloween coming in and it's just the perfect read. So I'm gonna go ahead and dive right in to the ones that I personally have read, which is not that many compared to the ones that I own that are on my TBR or ones that are coming out that I want to buy and read as well, but hang in there. So let's go ahead and get into the books that I have read that I recommend to you guys. So the first one I have is a cozy mystery, which is not a genre that I normally read, but I have been getting more into the genre since like the end or the middle of last year, and I've really enjoyed what I've read, and this was actually the first cozy mystery that I ever picked up, and I absolutely adore it. It's my favorite one so far that I've read, and that is In the Company of Witches by Auralee Wallace. In this book, we're following a witch named Bryn. She is living with her aunts in this town called Evenfall, which definitely gives off these Stars Hollow vibes, and I absolutely love it. Her aunts are witches and so is she, and her family basically owns this Airbnb, and these witches are really cool. I love the magic system because the witches are different types of witches. One of her aunts is a kitchen witch, and I can't remember what her other aunt is. I think she deals with plants and things like that, but Bryn is a witch that deals with talking and communicating with the dead. So Bryn moves back in with her aunts and helps them run their B&B because her husband has passed away, and that was the last time she used her magic, and she's just having a really rough time. But then a dead person shows up at her aunt's Airbnb, and her aunt Nora is the one that's accused of the murder, and so she decides that she's just gonna have to basically work through her trauma and work through what she's been through in order to get to the point where she can use her magic to communicate with the dead and find out who really killed the guest at the Airbnb. But this one gives off such cozy fall vibes, but again, it has that magical element of witches. There are talking animals in it. There are spells that go on, different types of descriptions with the setting, which makes it super, super pretty. You can see the cover is just one of my favorites. I love the greenery, the house, the cat. I think that adds onto the little spookiness of it, but it is so, so good. Highly recommend if you love mysteries, if you love magic systems, try it out. And don't knock it until you try it. Another one that I wanted to recommend is The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw. This was my first book by Shay Earnshaw that I read, and I absolutely adored it. It's seriously one of my favorite young adult fantasy books ever. It says, welcome to the cursed town of Sparrow. 2 centuries ago, 3 sisters were sentenced to death for witchery. Stones were tied to their ankles and they were drowned in the deep waters surrounding the town. Now for a brief time each summer, the sisters return, stealing the bodies of 3 troubled girls so that they may seek their revenge, luring boys into Sparrow's harbor and pulling them under. Like many locals, 17-year-old Penny Talbot has accepted the fate of the town. But this year, on the eve of the sisters' return, a boy named Beau Carter arrives, unaware of the danger he has just stumbled into. Mistrust and lies spread quickly through the salty, rain-soaked streets. The town people will turn against one another. Penny and Beau will suspect the other of hiding secrets, and death will come swiftly to those who cannot resist the call of the sisters. But only Penny sees what others cannot, and she will be forced to choose, save Beau or save herself. This is the perfect transitional book from summer into fall, and it gives you those spooky vibes as well. Because this is taking place on an island, there's a lot of water elements involved, there's a lighthouse involved, and the sisters come up through the water, so it's definitely very creepy, very eerie. There's a lot of dark aspects of this book that I truly love, and there was one of the biggest twists in a young adult book that I have ever read, and I absolutely was mind blown. I just really love the romance in this book. I really loved the setting, and again, I loved the witches. So if you have never checked this out and you again are trying to still get in those transitional books, you're kind of transitioning transitioning from summer into fall and you don't know what to read, pick this one up. This one doesn't technically say that it has witches in it, but since there is sorcery that is mentioned and sorcerers, I decided to count it anyway, and that is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. Again, one of my all-time favorite young adult fantasy novels. It is super cozy in the way that it includes libraries and the magic system and books. So, if you know, like, we're all book lovers here who are watching this video, we love our books. So if you throw in some spooky little grimoires with a darker magic system, this is what you're getting. People like Stephanie Garber have blurbed this and said it's a bewitching gem. Catherine Arden said if you love the Hogwarts Library, you'll be right at home. Tightly paced, hugely atmospheric, humorous, and has a gothic beginning. And Jessica Cluess, who wrote the Kingdom on Fire trilogy, said that no one can match this dark whimsy or joyous magic. You guys, it's so good. So we're following our main character, Elizabeth, who has grew up knowing that sorcerers are bad people and that they are to protect this big library that is full of grimoires from the sorcerers, because it would just be the end of the world if sorcerers got their hands on these books. But then Elizabeth meets Nathaniel, who happens to be a sorcerer, and he is teaching her all sorts of different things that she never knew about magic. He's teaching her different things that people in her life who raised her did not explain to her. He's just giving her a different perspective on what the magic system actually is. But like I said, this book has those dark gothic vibes in it. You have this dark library that does remind me a lot of Hogwarts, just like I said, slightly darker because it's full of grimoires that have different things. There are books with like teeth and fur and hair on them. It's just, but so good. Absolutely pick this up when you need a cozy fantasy read. The next one I want to mention is a manga. I have only found one manga that I have enjoyed, really, that has involved witches, and that is Hat Atelier by Kamome Shirahama. This is the first volume. I think I am on volume 4. But it says, meet young Coco, curious and bright and desperate to learn how magic's wrought, but witches keep their secrets hidden tight, and witches, Coco knows, are born, not taught. Then one day Coco spies upon a witch as he prepares the charms for which she yearns, and sees that like her skill with thread and stitch, the truth is magic's something she can learn. Now with this knowledge Coco starts to try to teach herself the witch's way with charm, and yet her aspirations go awry as Coco's magic causes grievous harm. To set things right, young Coco leaves her home, and so begins the tale within this tome. So cute! This is a cozy fantasy that is a manga, and you just meet this beautiful little girl named Coco who just aspires to be more than what she is, and she is taken in by this master, and I am struggling to remember his name right now. Okay, his name is Quifrey, sorry. But he has these apprentices who he is helping train to be witches. And I think there are 4 girls, including Coco, and they are just the sweetest and cutest things. Like I said, this is definitely more of a young audience driven, I think. But it does have a lot of darker subjects in it as well. Dealing that some of these girls are orphans, or some of their parents, you know, just gave them away, and there's also like darker aspects when you get the villains involved as well. But it's one of my favorite mangas. I do not think you will be disappointed if you pick it up. The next 2 that I'm showing you are graphic novels that I have read and absolutely loved. The first one is Crumbs by Dani Sterling. This one is so cute. It has a lot of really beautiful graphics in it. The colors are very fall vibes. You get the dark blues and the bright blues, but you also get these dark purples and oranges and yellows, and it's just one of the best witchy graphic novels ever. This was a webtoon comic, and it has been turned into obviously a physical book. But in this town there is a bakery, and you can order pastries such as love or happiness or joy or, you know, luck, things like that, and it's super cute. And so we have our main character, whose name is Ray, and our boy's name is Lori, which I love because shout out Little Women. But Laurie works in this bakery with his family, and he is a barista, and he has, you know, sort of magic to him that Ray loves, and he's also an aspiring musician as well. And Ray is a witch, and she is training to go to this special school where she can work with scrolls and different things like that, and just become really high up in the witch community. And I love this book so much because it truly showed how a relationship can be when you are working towards making a better you. So both Ray and Laurie are very focused on themselves and working on achieving the goals that they have set for one another. But they are also, you know, they are in love, they want to spend time with each other, they want to be a part of one another's lives, but it is proving to be difficult. But it's just the sweetest graphic novel to take on a hard subject and turn it into something that you can enjoy and that you can see the like light at the end of the tunnel for. I think it's super important. The other one I have is a middle grade graphic novel, and that is The OK Witch by Emma Steinkellner. This one was super cute. I love the illustrations, I love the cat, I love that she's on a broom, and I also again love the inside cover. It's got lots of different colors. They're kind of fall and summery. They honestly can work for any time of the year, but since this is a witchy book, obviously I'm gonna do it around this time of year. So Moth is this 13-year-old girl. She does have powers, but she doesn't know the extent of her powers, and the school that she's attending is gonna do this play where it talks about the founding of the town that she's in and how it came to be, and she finds out that magic is a little bit different than she thought. She finds that she has these powers inside of her that are darker and more powerful than she imagined, and she's kind of learning, you know, how to be a 13-year-old, how to do well in school, how to be a good witch, and all of this stuff. So she has a lot of pressure on her. But she meets this wonderful talking cat who is her companion, and she also unlocks this secret world where she uncovers a lot about the magic that she contains and what has happened, you know, throughout her town with its history. This one was just very heartwarming, and again had some very tough subjects that I think are important for kids this age who read these to know, but it handled them in a way that is also appropriate for kids, which I really loved. And that is Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin. One of my all-time favorite young adult fantasy novels. It's about a witch, there's a witch hunter, there's some enemies to lovers in this, there is some beautiful French language and French imagery, and a beautiful setting. Bound as one to love, honor, or burn. 2 years ago, Louise LeBlanc fled her coven and took shelter in the city of Césarine, forsaking all magic and living off whatever she could steal. There, witches like Lou are hunted, they are feared, and they are burned. Sworn to the church as a Chaucer, Reed Diggory has lived his life by one principle: thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. His path was never meant to cross with Lou's, but a wicked stunt forces them into an impossible union: holy matrimony. The war between witches and church is an ancient one, and Lou's most dangerous enemies bring a fate worse than fire. Unable to ignore her growing feelings, yet powerless to change what she is, a choice must be made, and love makes fools of us all. I am not a big fan of a marriage of convenience or like a forced marriage, but this one does it right. And this one is a little bit on the more adult side of young adult. There are some like steamy-ish scenes that are mentioned in this, but the imagery is just beautiful. Lou is definitely a person that I would want to be. She kind of reminds me of Jo March in the way that she is a very headstrong heroine, and she is not about to, you know, bow down to this Chaucer just because she is a witch and people don't believe that she should be alive. And Reed has been struggling because he grew up with these Chaucers basically in an orphanage home for just boys, and he's only been taught that witches are bad. But when he meets Lou, he's definitely given into the fact that she's this beautiful woman, she is more human than she lets on to be, and once he starts getting to know her more, he definitely starts to feel different, and I just love that. I love when things that people have learned and been taught for their whole lives become kind of questionable, because you do want to have those doubts. You want to, like, if it's something that you truly believe, I feel like you will have those doubts, and you will have the times where you are struggling and you need to figure out what is true for yourself, and I love it. But this book also has a really huge twist at the end that just kind of blew my mind and had me literally waiting to pick up the next book. Okay, now we're going to get into some of the books that I want to read that are on my TBR. These are going to be priorities for this year, and no exceptions. So you guys can yell at me all you want. I'm giving you permission now to yell at me if I don't get to these by the end of the year. I'm going to start off with this one because I feel like this one is the most summery one. So if you're going to want to read a book that has witches in it and still remain in those summer feels, I feel like Bring Me Your Midnight by Rachel Griffin is the best one to pick up, because this again is happening around water, and I've only read a little bit of this because I did get approved for an arc of it, but I went ahead and bought the physical copy because, you guys, first off, the cover is stunning, and if you open the dust jacket, it is this beautiful, gorgeous book, and I just cannot, like, I had to. I couldn't not get it, and it just sounds so wonderful. It says, Tana Fairchild's fate has never been in question. Her life has been planned out since the moment she was born. She is to marry the governor's son Landon and secure an unprecedented alliance between the witches of her island home and the mainlanders who see her very existence as a threat. Tana's coven has appeased those who fear their power for years by releasing most of their magic into the ocean during the full moon. But when Tana misses the midnight ritual, a fatal mistake, there is no one she can turn to for help until she meets Wolf. Wolf claims he is from a coven that practices dark magic, making him one of the only people who can help her. But he refuses to let Tana's power rush into the sea, and instead teaches her his forbidden magic, a magic that makes her feel powerful, alive. As the sea grows more violent, her coven loses control of the currents, a danger that could destroy the alliance as well as her island. Tana will have to choose between love and duty, between loyalty to her people and loyalty to her heart. Marrying Landon would secure peace for her coven, but losing Wolf and his wild magic could cost her everything else. It says this is a lush romantic fantasy about forbidden love, the choices we make, and the pull between duty and desire. Like I said, I got approved for an arc of this, and I read a little bit of it, and it definitely has all of those water vibes, which kind of freaks me out a little bit, but I absolutely think that it's going to be perfect. Getting those spooky dark magic vibes and having the magic system with witches in it, plus it's also getting that summery feel of the water. It mentions the saltiness of the water, the feel of the sand when you're swimming, and it just literally, Rachel Griffin knows how to describe. When she is describing things, I can picture it so perfectly. The next one I want to get to is a cozy mystery that I just picked up recently, and it is Caught Dead-Handed by Carol J. Perry. This is the first in a new series, and it's a Witch City mystery, and I am going to read this one to you guys as well, just because it makes more sense that way than trying to put it in my own words. It says, she's not a psychic, she just plays one on TV. Most folks associate the city of Salem, Massachusetts with witches, but for Lee Barrett, it's home. The October she's returned to her hometown where her beloved Aunt Ibby still lives, to interview for a job as a reporter at Witch TV. But the only opening is for a call-in psychic to host the late-night horror movies. It seems the previous host, Ariel Constellation, never saw her own murder coming. Ba-dum-tsh. Lee reluctantly takes the job, but when she starts seeing real events in the obsidian ball she's using as a prop, she wonders if she might really have psychic abilities. To make things even spookier, it's starting to look like Ariel may have been an actual practicing witch, especially when Orion, the cat Lee and Aunt Ibby inherited from her, exhibits some strange powers of his own. With Halloween fast approaching, Lee must focus on unmasking a killer, or her career as a psychic may be very short-lived. This one just sounds really like cozy, but not cozy. I feel like it's going to be cozy in the sense that it's taking place in this small town of Salem, and Lee is probably just like, I just wanted a job to pretend to be a psychic. Like, I'm just trying to find a job, and all of these things start happening, and it's kind of just out of her control, and she just gets caught up in it, which I also find really humorous when that kind of thing happens. I feel like that's my favorite part of cozy mysteries, is that there are these just normal everyday people who get caught up in these murder scenes, and it's just like, how how do these things happen to you? But I also love that there's a cat involved. I think it's super cute, and I can't wait to get into this one and just see if it's a series that I want to be continuing. The next one that I'm excited for is a witchy romance book, and it is Witcha Gonna Do by Avery Flynn. I have never read anything by this author. I don't know if this is like her first novel or not. Oh my gosh. She has a cat called Dwight and 5 dogs named after food. Apparently, though, she is a best-selling romance author, which I think is really cool. But the cover is what first pulled me, because I love this green cover. I also love the flowers that are around it. And this professor-looking man, nice. And the main character has red hair. So we're following this witch Tilda, and she is part of the most powerful magical family. And she, it sounds really funny because it says at the beginning that it's an unlucky witch and her know-it-all nemesis who team up in the first of a new spicy romantic comedy series. So this is definitely going to be a series. This is book 1, and again, it's more of a rom-com than just a romance. So I'm hoping that there is going to be some plot along with the spice, because that's the kind of romance that I enjoy. But anyway, Tilda, you know, is this magical witch, and her nemesis is Gil. I don't know if her and Gil have ever, like, been together. She's mentioned that kissing him was, like, a good thing, but also something that she didn't want to do again. So I'm assuming they have run into each other quite often, especially if she considers him to be her nemesis. But what happens is she accidentally does something where she messes up her sister's spell, or gets in her sister's spell book, and she ends up accidentally cursing her entire family. And the only person who can help her fix this is, you guessed it, Gil. And I just have to read you the last part because I love that the synopsis is done in Tilda's point of view, so that you get a good sense of what kind of person she's going to be, and she sounds hilarious. It says, now we have to work together to save my family and outmaneuver some evil-minded forces bent on world domination. Oh yeah, and we have to do all that while fighting against the attraction building between us. Because I may not be magical, but what's happening between Gil and I sure feels like. So I can't wait to see what this is about. It looks super cute, and I'm just hoping that it's going to live up to the hype that I have for it in my head. The next one that I'm also really excited about is The Lighthouse Witches by CJ Cook. This one was recommended to me by Olivia. She read this, absolutely loved it, and she's been dying for someone else to read this so she can talk to them about it, because she absolutely, like, this book blew her away. It says, 2 sisters go missing on a remote Scottish island. 20 years later, one is found, but she's still the same age as when she disappeared. The secrets of witches have reached across the centuries in this chilling gothic thriller. When single mother Liv is commissioned to paint a mural in a 100-year-old lighthouse on a remote Scottish island, it's an opportunity to start over with her 3 daughters, Luna, Sapphire, and Clover. When 2 of her daughters go missing, she's frantic. She learns that the cave beneath the lighthouse was once a prison for women accused of witchcraft. The locals warn her about wildlings, which are supernatural beings who mimic children, created by witches for revenge. Liv is told wildlings are dangerous and must be killed. 22 years later, Luna has been searching for her missing sisters and mother. When she receives a call about her youngest sister, Clover, she's initially ecstatic. Clover is the sister she remembers, except she's still 7 years old, the age she was when she vanished. Luna is worried Clover is a wildling. Luna has few memories of her time on the island, but she'll have to return to find the truth of what happened to her family. She doesn't realize just how much the truth will change her. That sounds absolutely terrifying, and I don't even know how I would react. From what I've heard, this is just way scary, which it is part, I think it's in the horror section when you buy it anyway, but I love that this is kind of referencing the kind of horror writing that Jennifer McMahon does, where she has 2 different timelines, and it makes it even scarier for some reason. I don't read historical books that often, but when I do, I want them to be just like this. The next one that I want to read is Hooky, which is a graphic novel by Miriam Bonester. This was also a webtoon comic turned into a graphic novel, and we are following these twins, which, look how cute. And first off, the fall cover, like, it's just got the perfect fall color palette inside. And this book it's been out for a little while, I think, 2021, and I've been meaning to get to it for a while now. The second book is already out, so this is the year that I will finally get to the first volume. So all that I know is that these two are twin witches, and they end up missing the bus on their way to school, which is a magical school, and then all of a sudden their life starts going downhill. There are people after them, there are things that are just happening that are crazy, and they don't know who to turn to or who to trust, and they're just kind of on their own. But then they run into this group of ragtag people. It says one of them is a troublemaker, a princess, and a teacher who can see the future on their side. So basically the kingdom is breaking down, and it is coming out to be the problem for two twin witches who are probably like, yeah, they're 12 years old. So it's like a Harry Potter type situation, but I think this one is going to be a little bit more low stakes and a little bit more humorous. I just really love how the illustrations kind of look like anime / manga illustrations. It just makes me so happy, and I might have to get to this sooner rather than later. The next one that I'm so excited to finally get to, because this book has also been out for a while now. It has been out since 2021, okay, so about the same as Hooky, but it is The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin. She's also who wrote Bring Me Your Midnight that I recommended, and this one was, I think, her debut. Yes, this one was her debut, so that's why I really want to get to this one. I know this one kind of has mixed reviews. Some people have either really loved it or really hated it, but I just want to see for myself what I think. It says, Clara Dinsmore is an ever-witch. For centuries, witches have maintained the climate, their power peaking in the season of their birth. But their control is faltering as the atmosphere becomes more erratic. All hope lies with Clara, whose rare magic is tied to every season. In autumn, Clara wants nothing to do with her power. It's wild and volatile, and the price of her magic, losing the one she loves, is too high, despite the need to control the increasingly dangerous weather. In winter, the world is on the precipice of disaster. Fires burn, storms rage, and Clara finally accepts that she's the only one who can make a difference. In spring, she falls for Sang, the witch training her. As her magic grows, so do her feelings for him, until she's terrified Sang will be the next one she loses. In summer, Clara must choose between her power and her happiness, her duty and the people she loves before she loses everything. Again, the cover just screams fall. I do think that, you know, it goes through the different seasons, but I'm assuming that we start taking place in the autumn. So I think that makes this the perfect novel to start off with when fall gets around. But I love the concept of this novel, of how witches have different powers, and in different seasons, their powers are the ones that matter. And this, you know, like if you have powers in autumn, that's when you can really shine, or when you have powers in winter, different things like that. I have never heard of that before, and I'm just super excited to see how it goes. And like I said, I read a little bit of Bring Me Your Midnight, and I did enjoy the writing style of Rachel Griffin, so I don't think that will be a problem. It's just going to come out to how the story is. And the last one that I'm going to hopefully get to by the end of this year is Small Town Big Magic by Hazel Beck. The second of this one, this is part of a series, so the second one came out, I think, already, or it's coming out soon, and it just means that I have to get to this one right away. So we're following Emerson, who is this really successful person. She is the president, no, she's the youngest Chamber of Commerce president in St. Cyprian, which is where she lives. She also owns an indie bookstore, and she's just really happy with her life. She has her friends, and she's just, you know, she's succeeding. But then she gets attacked by something that is not human. It is like a magical creature, and only magic can take it down. And she discovers that she failed a power test when she was younger, and they wiped it of her memories. And so this town of St. Cyprian that she thought was just a regular old town turns out to be full of witches, and she finds out that she's also a witch as well. So Emerson finds out that she has to decide what to do. She can run from, you know, these problems, or she can learn more about what her powers contain and what she can do. And she also gets like into the throes of this stuff with her childhood best friend, who is also now not really her childhood best friend. Don't even think they like each other, but his name is Jacob, and he's a farmer, and they are going to have to work together to get rid of this creature, and hopefully the town does not fall apart while that's happening. But those are all the witchy books that I have to recommend to you guys today. Hopefully you guys saw some that you haven't heard of or that you want to get to and you push them up a little bit on your list. I am so excited for the fall season. I just seriously cannot wait, and I cannot wait to dive more into these witchy books. Let me know down in the comments below if there are any that you saw that you have read, and let me know your thoughts on them, or let me know if there's any that you saw that you want to read as well. Or if you don't know what to comment, go ahead and leave one of the little wizards or witch emojis down in the comments below. And thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to watch, and I will see you guys in my next video.